I'm done trying to live up to others' expectations. Family, society, class, race, sex, or religions. It's time to break free from the isms that make us feel like we're in prison. I'm ready to be unleashed as fuck. I'm ready to be unleashed as fuck. Tired of the madness, done with the sadness. Gonna break free and be unleashed.
Hey, leash breakers. This week we're doing something a little bit different and necessary. We're spotlighting people who are already unleashed. Yes. People who have found that defying control and challenging this dictator next door energy in the country and refusing to shrink back into compliance, from quiet acts of resistance to full throttle authenticity. This is what rebellion actually looks like, and it's good to be inspired.
That's right. And these aren't necessarily polished celebrities we're talking about, or heroes, or even the political talking heads. We'll actually probably talk more about the political side of things next week on 4th of July. But these are everyday people we're talking about who are done being silenced. Some use sarcasm, some use strategy, some just show up as their true authentic selves, which is the biggest rebellion of all. And today we're celebrating them and challenging you to join them.
Yeah, and we're trying our darndest to join them ourselves. You're listening to Unleashed AF, the podcast that rips off the mask, exposes the leashes holding you back, and challenges you to lead authentically and powerfully. I don't know why I said authentically. I don't know what that was. I'm Deidre Beecham, visibility catalyst and creator of the Medusa Effect. My past taught me how to disappear. And unlearning that has made one thing clear. I exist to end the epidemic of female erasure. And now I help women to take back what the world told them to hide and say what actually needs to be said.
That's right. And when you say erasure, that reminds me of the group from back in
oh my gosh, I forgot about them. Yeah, that's right. You just listen to the erasures.
And I'm Jenny Vadig, certified hypnotherapist, coach, human factors engineer, and liberator of subconscious superpowers. I help people understand and unleash what's already inside them so that they can stop sabotaging and start soaring. And together we are leash breakers, dream makers, risk takers.
Don't you mess around with us. I love that.
So if you love what we're about, hit follow, subscribe, like, all those social media verbs, and drop your thoughts in the comments or at unleashedafpodcast.com, where you can go to the page WWJDD, which is What Would Jenny and Deidre Do, and give us feedback or suggestions or ideas for future shows. So we're here to expose the leashes, explore what it really means to be free, and to help you step into your fully authentic, unleashed life.
Awesome. So again, this is, being visible when the world is telling you to hide. And that's really what being unleashed is all about. To stand out, to be who you are, no matter what somebody else is thinking. And which is one of the reasons why we were planning on this being, of course, the last week of Pride Month, June. We were planning on having a good friend of mine on here who's trans, and she wasn't able to make it today. So we're going to have her sometime, hopefully, later in July. But we did find a bunch of videos that we want to share with you. And we haven't really shared these with each other, even the ones that you had me change, Jenny. I didn't watch them all the way through. I just chopped off where you told me to and uploaded them. So this should be fun. So here, let me share this one with you. Let me pull this up. Which one is this?
Disrespect is often not a misunderstanding, but a test to see where your boundaries are, and how you respond will determine if it happens again. Your energy and attention is currency, so stop wasting it by trying to explain just how badly they've hurt you. People don't learn respect through lectures. They learn it through emotional control and distance. And where a lot of women go wrong is they think that by giving an emotional reaction, they're asserting their dominance. You are not. True power is in restraint. You do not command respect by begging for it. You command it through what you're willing to walk away from. Willingness to walk away equals I have options. But when you stay when you are being disrespected and you end up working even harder to gain their approval, what you're actually communicating through your actions is this is the best I think I can do. And your validation means more to me than my own dignity. And that is inherently repulsive because the most attractive trait a person can possess is self-respect. And self-respecting people do not beg for basic human decency. They simply don't engage with people who don't give it to them. So the next time a person disrespects you, don't crash out. Stay calm and let your silence speak for you. And if you must say something like, I'm surprised you felt comfortable saying that out loud, and then get up and leave. Does that mean you suppress your emotions? No. What it means is that you will stay emotionally composed and you will emotionally regulate yourself in private. And what you demonstrate by doing that is that your behavior is not worthy of a reaction from me. And that is how you flip the script and take your power back.
Yes.
I love every moment of that.
Yeah.
And if you have, I think it resonated so much with me because of the people that I've had in my life that have been narcissists. And of course, I talk a lot about nice girl training. And that is exactly opposite of nice girl training, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is, no, stand up for yourself. Stop trying so hard to get people to do or to not step over your boundary. Stop trying that. Instead, stick up for your boundary. I mean, she didn't use that word specifically, but stand up for your boundary by going, I'm not going to be a part of this.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the one thing I was surprised that she didn't say was the word boundaries, because that's what she was describing the whole time.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that, of course, before, but the way she described it kind of from a different angle, because she didn't describe it as a boundary, I think is helpful too, just to see.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
This is just using a different color crayon to color the same thing in. That we're saying you have to stand up for yourself. You don't have to react to these people and allow them to sort of control your behavior. Instead, you can control your behavior by sticking to those boundaries and going, I'm not gonna go crazy just because this person is trying to push my buttons or whatever. So yeah, that was good.
Yeah. And I love how she said, I'm surprised that you said that out loud.
Yeah.
Oh my, that is just so perfect. Now, it doesn't work as well if you're like, I'm surprised you said that out loud. That doesn't work it's not nearly as powerful, which is kind of what I think she was getting to.
Yeah.
But to instead, if you could keep yourself calm and say, wow, really surprised you thought it was okay to say that out loud. And then walking away is so powerful and defiant and not nice. Right. And the only thing that I would add is that, she talked about stepping away and self-regulating. And so obviously she's talking about somebody who this is a new thing, standing up for themselves by setting a boundary and walking away. And yeah, you are going to have, you're going to be dysregulated, because it triggered you for some reason. And the thing that I would say, what I would challenge people to do, and this is something I did for myself, is that, and that's through the tripping methodology. So in trigger tripping, I tell you to go out on purpose to find these situations. But if this situation happens, right, to walk away, you set your boundary, walk away. But then when you walk away, try and figure out, okay, yes, I'm regulating myself. I'm doing my meditation. I'm saying words of affirmation, whatever it is that you do to regulate your system. Maybe you do somatic exercises. But to then look at it and go, okay, but why? Why did it trigger me? Why did that trigger me so badly? And one of the things that I saw this guy talking about, or triggers, or no, it was a woman. She was talking about triggers, and she said, it's like if I accused you of having a ridiculous monkey on your head. God, that's just the most ridiculous monkey you've got on your head. You'd be like going, what fucking monkey? I mean, it just wouldn't bother you. Be like, because it's obviously not true. So it's not going to trigger you. So if somebody's saying something to you and they're trying to get your goat and it triggers you, one of the things you have to do is figure out why. What about the thing that they said caused you to have a reaction? So there's some story you're telling yourself.
Right.
And a lot of times it's an old story.
Exactly.
And figuring out what that story is so that you can take the burn off it, the sting off of it.
Yep.
Change the story so the next time, one, they don't say it, or two, if they do say it, you don't even have to walk away because you're just like, well, that's ridiculous. I don't have a monkey on my head.
Right.
Why would you say that? Okay, that's nuts. And you turn to the
Wrong
person
over there.
Right, yeah. You keep your crazy ass over there. I'm going to be over here.
Right.
And to not be triggered by those things anymore.
Yep.
Is truly the end goal. For me.
Yeah. And, this reminds me of the fact that I've had people call me before asking about whether I can help them with hypnotherapy forget people, like erase them from their brain.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm like, I can't even like morally or ethically attempt to erase someone from your memory. However, what we can do is take the emotional charge that they create for you and like neutralize it, basically. So because I said I can't keep them from showing up and you recognizing them, like that's I can't go that far. So if we make just any inference of them, whether it's their voice or their image or whatever, just doesn't mean anything to you anymore. So you have to neutralize the emotional charge, which is like turning off the trigger that it sets off in you emotionally. And then it doesn't matter. Like they show up, they leave, who cares? It's no big deal. So definitely the same idea there. And there's so many ways that can happen. And a lot of times you may not realize that there's still a bit of a button or a trigger there.
Yeah. Until you don't, until it happens.
Right.
Yeah. But I loved her explanation of, she didn't say this specifically, so I will, is that the reaction that you do have needs to be calm.
Yeah.
It needs to be, man, I can't believe you said that out loud, and walk away as if that is ridiculous. As if, do you even realize what you've just said to me?
Right.
And showing, and then just removing yourself. And this is an incredible tactic if you have a narcissist in your life.
Yep.
It's an amazing tactic. I just loved every moment of it.
Yeah. And there's kind of two ways that can go for the person that you're saying it to, right?
Yeah.
If they have a conscience, meaning maybe not so narcissistic, they might take that as, oh, I guess I went too far. Maybe I shouldn't have said that.
And self-reflect.
Right? Yeah. But the one who is narcissist is
not going to self-reflect.
They're not going to self-reflect. They're probably going to try to throw it back at you in some other weird, twisted way, which is why you should just go ahead and exit stage left.
But isn't that a beautiful thing? Because if you do walk away, they only have two choices, right? They can either stay there or follow you. Well, then they follow you. Then they're showing themselves as unhinged. It's just such a beautiful tactic to self-protect and stand up for yourself all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was interesting to me that she was saying walk away and then self-regulate. I feel like you're already in the process of self-regulating when you stay calm and respond.
Yes. Yeah. So you do have to be far enough along in your healing that you can stay calm during that.
Yeah.
But I have been very calm in situations before and still felt like inside felt the reaction. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, is that, and I love that you brought that up. That is self-regulating if you can keep yourself calm in that situation. But if it still triggers you so that you're feeling it inside as you're walking away, maybe your heart is pounding, you're shaky or whatever it is, that courage, and then pat yourself on the back for having the courage to do it,
Mm-hmm.
because it can be very scary if you haven't done it before.
Yep.
But yeah, I love that. You're right. You're absolutely right. If you are keeping calm during it, you are actually self-regulating to a point.
Yep. And if that other person is narcissistic, they're not capable of that.
Yeah, and don't expect it. Just instead,
Right.
look at yourself and go, "Wow, I'm proud of myself. I did this." Call a friend.
Yep.
Believe what I just did.
Mm-hmm.
Celebrate your courage. Celebrate your power to
Mm-hmm.
keep your power with you instead of relinquishing it to another individual that just wants to use it.
Right. And even understanding if there are other people around who are observing that interaction, the way that they respond also kind of says something about where they are in their maturity or where they are on the narcissism spectrum.
Yeah,
Because if they
absolutely.
kind of side with the one that's trying to poke your buttons, there's not much need to try to help them out either. But just making that statement, if they're kind of sane mind, let's say, they can recognize, oh, look, that didn't bother her at all. She just responded and walked away. So he's the one that, or she the one, whichever, is the one that seems to be
They.
on base here. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, really interesting. What do you want to share, Jenny?
Well, I mean, we've talked a couple times about The Handmaid's Tale, which I know a lot of people have watched. I had to catch up with the rest of the world and binge watch to get to the latest season that's just come out, which I think I've only watched the first episode of so far. But when we were talking about doing this topic, I was like, my God, is there a better example of like your average everyday person who ended up having to become a rebel and stand up to oppressors and all that kind of stuff? Is there a better example than June Osborne from Handmaid's Tale? Because she's like the shero of that.
She's a badass.
Of that whole freaking show. So we do have a clip of that, right? Do you want me to play it, or are you going to play it?
I got it. Hang on just a second. Here we go.
Over the course of 6 seasons, June has changed so much. When we first meet June, she is the product of Gilead.
You girls will bear children for the leaders.
Then we go back and we're able to kind of see she was a normal person. She was a mom. She's a wife. She really starts as an every woman.
She's been sleepwalking through life. She hasn't recognized the signs of what's coming.
No, please don't take her.
She's very much a prisoner. Even her voice is different in the first season.
Hi, blessed be the fruit, may the Lord open.
The circumstances of Gilead push her to places where she has to do things that are pretty extreme to live, to survive.
Every tiny little decision was a tiny little rebellion.
As the seasons moved on, she became more of a rebel, more of a fighter, more of a badass.
And she starts to emerge as a real leader.
One of the biggest qualities of her character is that she has a surfeit of empathy. She can even empathize with her torturer, her captor, her oppressor.
Wow.
Yeah. That's sort of summarizing the character of June Osborne over the course of, I believe it's the first 4 or 5 seasons when they did those little kind of in-between season takes on character or show development, really. But, she was just a normal, average, everyday person. It's interesting, I thought, that they were saying she was just kind of sleepwalking through life. Didn't feel.
Don't you think there are so many people doing that right now?
Yep.
It always boggles my mind when I say, oh my gosh, it's just insane, the decisions that are being made at the executive level right now with Congress and with President Trump, that are really hurting our rights and taking things away from us. And then I'll have people go, really? Like so what rights has he taken away? I'm like, how
Yeah.
how do you not know this is our livelihood we're talking
Yeah.
about? And I'm not a political. I didn't grow up being political. My parents, and I will talk more about politics next week. But my parents weren't political. I didn't grow up
Mhm.
thinking that way. But my goodness, at some point you have to make a decision that, wow, if I'm going to keep my freedoms as an American, maybe I need to step up and start paying attention.
Yeah.
And I think Handmaid's Tale is just a it's a warning. It's a warning to kind of wake up.
Yeah.
And
And certainly when it originally came out was before all this craziness had happened. So
Yeah.
at that point, it was like a warning. Now it's more like a, hey, last call.
pay attention. Pay attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even in the first show, it's the preview for it was like, when they eliminated Congress, we didn't wake up. And it was like, they did
Mhm.
what? And now
Mhm.
right now we're hearing about Congress people being arrested.
Mhm.
They're trying in Texas to change the boundaries of the different districts in order to eliminate Jasmine Crockett's seat. Like, what? Like, this is happening.
Yeah.
There was a woman, I can't remember if it was some southern state, and I apologize, I don't remember which one it was. Or maybe it was a Midwest state.
How
But anyway,
surprising that it would be a southern state.
right? But this woman was dead. Did you hear about this? This woman was dead, but she was pregnant.
Oh,
And against the pleas of the family,
in
they
Georgia.
hooked her up in Georgia. Thank you. Hooked her up to machines to keep her alive long enough as an incubation station. Anyway,
Which is exactly pulled from the pages of Handmaid's Tale. I think it was season 3 or 4. That exact same thing happened. The woman was, by all accounts, dead, but she was pregnant. So they kept her on life support until they could deliver the baby.
yeah.
Verbatim from Handmaid's Tale.
So if you're watching Handmaid's Tale, or you haven't watched it, you're thinking about watching it, and you're
It's
thinking
on Hulu, by the way.
this stuff is crazy. Yes, thank you. So this could never happen here. It is happening here.
Yeah.
Maybe not in its entirety, but there are bits and pieces of that show that are happening now, and it needs to be a wake-up call. Again, we'll talk a lot more about that next week when we go into 4th of July and our freedoms. But yeah, June's a badass, and I love that they talk about, she's just an ordinary person.
Yep.
Mom, friend, she jogged, she had a bank account, all of these things.
Yeah.
Married and children, and she became a leader, and that's so interesting, because I think some of the best leaders are people who have been pushed into a position of leading, and they don't necessarily want to, but they find themselves in a position of needing to step up and right wrongs.
Yeah.
They see, which I think is, the basic premise of June's changes. That there are so many wrongs, and like I said, she has oppressors, and she finally says, wow, I need to stand up to this. And when she does, there's a ripple effect. Just like, if you step up and make a decision that you're going to be a leader because you see the oppressor, and whether it's for yourself or for other people, or, for the American public in general, standing up and being a leader at that point, because you don't see any other option not to. It's either, keep the same and disappear, or speak up and maybe possibly make a difference. And I think that's kind of where June was. It was like, I can't live like this, so I'm going to step up and do this. They're going to kill me anyway. Why not kill me while I'm trying to do something good for people?
Right. Yeah.
And that's a scary place to get to.
Absolutely. And I think part of the point, even especially, I guess, in looking back over those seasons and pointing out, like, she was just an average person to start out, is if people like her stood up and started pushing back or rebelling or just having boundaries and standing up for their rights and not allowing those things to get stripped away, kind of under the cover of midnight votes in government and stuff like that, she probably wouldn't have had to get as aggressive and as extreme, I guess you could say, as she did end up getting, because that's how the treatment ended up pushing her. Like, the only way to get out of it at that point was to be extreme and take those kinds of risks. But if you start to step up and join and have community and pushback and rebellion earlier, it doesn't have to get so dramatic, I guess is another way to look at it. And that's why it's important for us all to do that now. But, that's certainly tied to things like the government being overthrown and stuff like that. But you can also see similar types of things happening within industries, right? When people work, especially things that are like the automotive industry is a good example. There have been people that have been taken advantage of in terms of, employees. That's why they unionized, because things just weren't fair. And that's one of the reasons I think that a lot of different unions developed across the country, was because workers were just getting taken advantage of to the point where it was almost like slave labor. They weren't given breaks. They weren't given, just opportunity to be healthy in a variety of ways and not paid a fair wage. So things like unions are one way that people have stepped up and created that boundary where it's like, no, we're not working over this amount of hours without getting paid extra, or extra days off, or whatever, whatever the situations are. And so those are some of the ways that people outside of even just from our political perspective have had to stand up in just their industrial or everyday job.
Yeah. And I think also, and I think it's really important to mention, and we mentioned this in the opening, is that it doesn't mean that you have to take a huge political act, that you need to do a whole big thing and lead tons of people like June Osborne. It could be something really simple and a little fun.
I'll tell you what the world doesn't need anymore right now. Well-behaved women. Just saying.
Yeah, plain and simple. I mean, she just got on social media and says, you know what the world doesn't need anymore? Well-behaved women.
Yeah.
And she's right. She's right. But what a simple thing for her to do. And maybe it wasn't simple for her. Maybe she had to get up a whole bunch of bravery and courage and pull it up and muster from deep within her. I don't know how easy or how hard that was for her. But what an incredibly impactful statement that was like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
10 seconds on social media. And who knows what that's going to do, who that's going to affect.
Yep.
Who that's going to speak to.
Yep. And even beyond the words that she used, the music she had playing in the background for people of a certain era.
Here.
Exactly. Not everybody would recognize that.
Ain't exactly clear. Yeah.
Yep. But
there's a man with a gun over there.
Yep.
And telling me I got to beware. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah.
So it has a reach beyond just the 10 seconds of what she said, because that's the message that goes on for the rest of us that know that song as soon as we hear that tune. So it's powerful. It is powerful.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, you want to share another one of yours?
Yeah, let's see. So another thing I wanted to talk about was, especially with it being Pride Month, Laverne Cox is a good example of someone who has not shied away from standing up against and speaking out against some of the things that are happening that are trying to take rights away from the LGBTQ community. So I did find this little snippet of what Laverne Cox said on The View.
Laverne, you have done always such an incredible job weaving together your art and your activism. And this show is a poignant and beautiful example of just that. The transgender community has been heavily targeted in the last few weeks. One example?
Actually, the last several years, but go on.
Yeah, but the last 2.5 weeks have been a doozy.
It's a mess, yeah.
Okay, and one example is that transgender people have been unable to update their gender markers on passports after President Trump's executive order defining sex as either male or female. So how do you respond to that, and what does it feel like to bring clean slate to the world right now, at this moment?
Well, the clean slate piece feels divine, and it feels, it's really been the past several years for me as a trans person, because this started at the state level many years ago. 26 states banned gender-affirming care for young people. So this has been happening on the state level for many years. So I've been devastated because trans families have had to relocate for many years. Parents have been criminalized, so it's been devastating. Now it's happening on a federal level. So I love trans people. I just love people, and it's horrible. But love and family, and what I really love about our show is that there are Chelma Hopkins plays Ella, the legend, and she's this really loving, amazing Christian woman. And I know so many amazing Black Christian women who might have some difficulty with their gay child or trans child, but the love and that Christian vibe of loving everybody comes through. And I love that we get to model that kind of love on Clean Slate. Yeah. And I think in terms of the administration and all this propaganda and lies, everything he's doing is illegal, by the way, everything. So hopefully it'll be challenged in the courts. But I think at the end of the day, trans people are less than 1% of the population, and trans people are not the reason you can't afford eggs. We're not the reason that you can't afford health care. We're not the reason that you can't buy a house or your rent's too high. Yeah. I think they're focused on the wrong 1%. Ooh. I think the other 1% is the reason for all those things. I'm not going anywhere. I have a TV show on Prime Video, honey. I can't go anywhere.
I love that. And it's wow, the bravery that is there. And actually I used to think of that as, oh my gosh, she's the most courageous, brave person of all, to come out. She's being targeted. Her whole community is being targeted. And comes out proud of who she is and with confidence. And what I now understand, what I used to see as courage and bravery, well, it still is courage and bravery. The biggest amount of courage and bravery was in her going into herself and getting strong in her own personal confidence in who she is. She knows who she is.
Yep.
And once you know who you are and you've done that kind of work, that, the trigger tripping, the making sure that, you don't have those things that take you off track anymore because you are so certain of who you are. That isn't even brave anymore. It's almost like it becomes a compulsory. It's something you have to do. I have to show up because this is who I am. And I believe I'm very certain that Laverne Cox is that way. She's talked about it in a number of programs where she's so certain of who she is. She has to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to point out too, it's not like she's just going around and, spouting off about things anytime somebody will put a microphone in front of her.
No.
she's doing these interviews because she's promoting a show that's also spreading this message, so it's a TV show that people can go and watch and learn more about what it is. That's and the fact that she was even talking about it primarily from a place of love.
Yes.
That's what we're promoting, is we're demonstrating that it's okay for Christians to love their gay children or love their trans children or whatever the challenge is for them.
Yeah.
Is another example of coming at it from a place of strength and conviction versus feeling like it has to be a snapback kind of thing, right?
And it's interesting. So here's this trans woman who is acting more and demonstrating more of what Jesus' love actually is than what we're hearing right now from Christians, specifically Christian nationalists,
right?
Zionists,
right?
Yeah, that's really cool. And so again, there's so many different ways. I love this woman that I'm getting ready to share with you. Now, she travels around the country. She does these shows. And if you haven't seen her before, highly recommend following her. She has a segment of her show where she takes questions from the audience. And this is actually that segment.
Why are men? They did not stop writing and forget the rest of the question. The question mark's at the end. That's the whole thing. Why are men? Is anyone willing to admit to this, or is it a not? Okay, hello. Can you elaborate on the question? Because it doesn't have enough words in it. Why are men? So you just said the same thing again. Unhelpful. What do you mean? Why are men the way they are? Yes. Oh, okay, I can help. So there's actually a biological reason why men are the way they are. You see, when men are born, they are born with a special thing that women don't have. It's called the audacity.
She is hilarious. And it's not all male bashing. It's not what this is about. But she does this. She talks about issues, modern day issues, from a 40s, 50s kind of way of talking and acting, but bringing it up to present day and just going, well, this is why. And she's able to address things in a very specific way because she's being this character. And she is so fun to watch. So fun to watch. So I highly recommend you following her if you aren't familiar with her. But another fun way to be unleashed.
Yeah.
Right? To do a show like this. Yeah, I love it.
Absolutely. And another thing that I wanted to mention, I don't have a video for it or anything, but I do know that a whole different example, if you don't feel like going out there and being verbal about it or being physical in terms of showing up and doing protests or whatever, is we've talked before about you can indicate what you support or be rebellious against the things that you see happening by where your money goes. And I can think of maybe not a better example than Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, Stephanie, let me see, what's her name? Mackenzie Scott, sorry. And she has donated over $19 billion to causes that she sees as being threatened by the current administration since her divorce from Jeff Bezos. I don't know how much control she had over money spending while they were married, but once their divorce was final, which was back in 2019, she has donated so much money.
$19 billion is a lot of money.
Since 2019, like since that time, over $19 billion has gone to organizations that support healthcare, affordable housing, education, alleviating poverty, just economic stability, LGBTQ and human rights. all these things that that 1%, that other 1% that Laverne Cox was talking about,
Yeah.
to not support.
You know what's interesting? I don't know if you've seen any of this, Jenny, and I don't have a video about this. I know we were talking about this. But have you seen what has been happening in Italy because Jeff Bezos wanted to marry his new fiance in Italy?
Oh, I've seen a few little things pop up about it, but I don't know the whole story.
So one of the things is there was a whole plaza or piazza that Jeff Bezos wanted to rent out, and people came together and just did this. I can't remember what the sign said, but there was this huge sign that you could see from a helicopter, drone, whatever, and it was it covered the piazza. And it was all about, rebelling against Jeff Bezos being able to come there. It was something like, if you can pay for this piazza, you can give people a livable wage. And there's another, what else are they doing? They're just being unleashed over in Italy. You did a dummy of Jeff Bezos and had him in a suit, and then hugging like a life raft. They threw it into the canals, right? And he's hugging a life raft, and evidently the life raft, it's actually suitcases, and evidently the suitcases are full of money because he's sitting there, he's holding his money while he's floating away on this luggage. I'm not sure what the significance is of that, but evidently it was so bad that he did end up moving it somewhere else. I don't know that it's out of Italy, but from wherever they were actually going to do all this, they moved to a different location. But you can affect change.
Yep.
And, of course, he's still getting married. That's not the point. The point was that he had so much money to rent this part of a city.
Yeah. I think it was like $20 million or something like that.
Yeah. And so now, people can't go and use the area, and they were just pissed. Pissed. And making a difference. Look, it became world news.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing that I think became probably world news, because it happened, I think, when he was over in England, but he's been doing it, I think, at all his concerts. So, Bruce Springsteen, back in May, I believe, at his very first concert, which I believe was in England, not his very first concert ever, obviously, but in this tour, took a moment out of the concert, sat down, and was just talking to the crowd about, I don't know if you guys know what's going on in my country. I've been singing to you about my country and how I'm so proud of it. And it's not what it used to be. And then
you have,
well,
you have a clip about this too, I think.
Said that. And then, of course, Orange Noggin replied and was trying to make fun of him and bully him.
Yeah, that's right.
But even after that, he's still talking about it. So he's not being quiet just because, the asshole tried to call him out.
And I love this because before you started, one of the things I love about this is that we need to see more and more people. Yes, it's great seeing. I love that Bruce Springsteen is doing this and regular people are doing this. But we need to see it, because there's the whole point of a lot of the things that Trump is doing is he wants us afraid, right? Yeah. He wants people to be afraid. He wants people to be compliant. That's what a dictator does. And so to rebel against that puts a target on you. And so it's awesome to see, because if we all make ourselves targets, the more people that make ourselves targets, the less they can actually come after us, because they can't come after all of us. And if there's enough people standing up and saying, this is wrong, there's a ripple effect to that. So then someone else goes, oh, wow, that person had the courage to do that. I can muster the courage to do this. And it ripples. And so, I love that somebody that is famous is doing this, because then the target is even bigger.
Yeah. And they have more of a reach to influence more people, which I have no problem with. So let's just watch what he was saying. This was from just a couple weeks ago, actually, this video.
Awesome.
The America that I love, the America that I've sung to you about, that has been a beacon of hope and liberty for 250 years, is currently in the hands of a corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous administration. Tonight, we ask all who believe in democracy and the best of our American experiment to rise with us, raise your voices, stand with us against authoritarianism, and let freedom reign.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that
I
one was
love
in
that.
Germany. I couldn't remember where it was. The first time he did it was in England, I believe, and then this one was in Germany. So he's
Okay.
not just trying to talk to Americans about it. That's part of how the rest of the world is finding out that, you know, this is not your normal America. Like, we aren't all in support of this. Please help us, you know, recover from this and don't let this become the new norm in our country.
Yeah, I love that, because by him doing that and putting a target on himself, it just helps everybody else. It just helps everybody else. And the bravery for him to do that, knowing that the orange man is going to attack him in some way. Yeah, I think it's important for us to see that people aren't scared to still speak out.
Right.
Just so important.
Yeah.
This is, do you have anything else you want to say about that? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. I don't remember what this one is, so we're just gonna have to put this one up. I seriously don't remember.
Male loneliness epidemic. Why man lonely? Man want provide, woman stay home, raise kids, white butts, smile pretty, need man. Then man say no gold diggers, work for own money, but still raise kids, still do laundry, still cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Man say be sexy, be mommy too, be hot, be tired, be everything. Man say I'm the provider because I work full time, but so does his wife. Full-time kid mommy, full-time husband mommy, and work full time. Man want loyalty, man want devotion, but man cheat. Woman become everything man's supposed to be, plus woman role. Kid mommy and sexy husband mommy. Woman stay, woman push, woman level up again. Man say, why not need? One day woman realize, man not protect, man not provide, and not evolve. And now, woman not need, woman not beg. But man lonely because woman not stupid. You push for women to become self-sufficient, then act confused when they do. You demanded independence, and you abandoned emotional safety, and now you're shocked that she built a world where you're no longer needed. Loneliness isn't a mystery, and it's also not a woman's fault. Hot girls stay single.
Yeah.
Love that. I forgot what that one was about, but I
Yeah.
love that, because
Yeah.
so much of this male loneliness epidemic has been blamed on women. And yet she just explained how it wasn't our fault.
Yeah.
You know, the expectations, we just kept changing, you know, to the expectations. And then we're waking up and going, wait a minute. Why do we have all these expectations? And now you've put us in a place where, yeah, you're not evolving. You're not
Yeah.
evolving. And yeah, I don't want to be around that.
Yeah. And I feel like that's potentially part of the issue with the push towards more traditional family type values and Christian values, stuff like that. It's not, they're blaming it and making it sound like it's women's fault for becoming, you know, more independent and things like that. And instead of wanting to stay with her husband, regardless of how he's treating them, instead, it really should be, why aren't the men evolving to the point where they can share the load as she's evolving to be able to handle more herself? That's where the disconnect is. It's not that women don't want to have a solid family or whatever, but why carry around dead weight?
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's where the focus needs to be. But of course, when the men are the ones in charge, whether it's of the home or of the business or of the government or whatever, then they're not going to look at themselves. They're going to point in different directions. Oh, no, it's not our fault for not evolving. It's their fault for changing. We want things to stay the same. Make America great again, damn it. Because it was great when we didn't have to evolve or worry about being out evolved by others.
Yeah. And I love that she just pointed out that in a couple of times that it's just not women's fault. We reacted to situations. We had to stay with men because men were the only people that could own property. Men were the only ones that could have credit cards. Men, you couldn't even shut down a bank account without your husband signing it.
Yep.
I remember even for myself, my son had a bank account, and my husband had set it up. And so he was like the code, because my son wasn't of age yet. And so it was like a teaching account. And I went to go put money into it, and they wouldn't let me. I was like, why won't you let me? Well, you're not on the account, but I'm putting money in. And that's my husband. You can see we have an account here. And again, I'm not trying to take money out. I'm putting money in. You can't do that without your husband's permission. I'm like, what year are we in?
Yeah.
I can't without my husband's permission. Are you kidding me? Anyway. Wow. Yeah. That's just messed up. So
that would have been like what year?
It wasn't that long ago. Would have been 15 years ago, maybe.
So 2010-ish?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And that in order for me to have any kind of control on the account, my husband, and I needed to get my husband's permission to go on my son's account. Okay. But anyway, very, very interesting. Yeah.
And again, even another kind of hidden or subtle undertone to what she was saying is she was speaking like in caveman language.
Yeah.
Kind of pointing out just through how she was talking, they have not evolved.
Yeah. And again, we don't need anybody's, well, not all men. We know that.
Right.
We know that. If this doesn't apply to you, or it doesn't apply to your husband or your boyfriend or whatever, great. That's awesome. You are so lucky.
You've chosen well.
You have chosen well. But for the rest of us out here, that's just truth. Just truth.
Yeah.
Okay, we are at the end of our hour here. You want to save Sarah for next time?
Yeah, for sure.
And then I have one more I'm going to show real quick.
Okay.
I don't advocate for violence. However,
it's an interesting intro to this clip. I can't wait.
I don't advocate for violence. However, I have to admit that I walked away from this video going, somebody needed to do that. And so here we go. Hold on, that is really not very loud. So I'm going to try and turn up the volume here. I don't know that I can, but I'm going to try. You just turn your volume up higher so that you can hear this conversation.
Where's your man at? Got a man. I'll be your man.
Please can you call me back?
Woo. Yeah, back is even better than the front.
What's your problem? Can't you see I was trying to leave a voicemail?
Oh, my bad, sweetheart. Don't just being nice.
Oh, nice? You think it's nice to harass women like that?
Hey, I was giving you compliments. You don't need to be such a bitch.
What did you say to me?
I said, you're a bitch.
Anyway. Again, I don't advocate for violence, but I watched that and I was like, that felt kind of good. That she stood up for herself and was like, I'm just so done with this.
Yeah. Because it's like, I don't think there's a similar way that men experience that kind of thing.
No.
To understand that it's not, oh, I'm just giving you compliments. No, those weren't compliments. those were degrading.
Yeah. And you know where his head was at as soon as he called her the B word. I mean, he's just like, well, you just proved that everything I just thought about you is actually true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hidden messages. Oh, and there's this thing going around right now. And I thought this was really interesting. I apologize I didn't bring it up earlier. There's a new trend happening on TikTok right now. I don't know if it's happening anywhere else, but I'm totally here for it. Because for a while now on TikTok, what women have been doing is talking about, you know, my ex did this, my ex-boyfriend did this, my ex-husband, my husband right now is doing this, my boyfriend right now is doing this. And then women coming and talking to them and helping them to kind of, you know, move past and out of these relationships. And what women have started doing now is instead of talking about the stories, they're starting to record them. So they're recording the man in the room with her, berating her, going off, saying horrible things. They're recording the creep on the subway who was, you know, licking their lips and, you know, eyeing them up and down and putting their faces on. And what's interesting is the comments, because men are coming into the comments saying, man, where do you find these men? You know, how come you're not picking better? You know, choose better, women. I don't know any of these men. And the women are coming back going, they're your friends. They're the buddies that you play with on basketball court. It's the guy that goes on, that watches a game with you, that goes to your children's sports and you know, and watches the game. They're your friends. If it's not you, because it could be you.
Yeah.
It's your friends. You're just not seeing this side of them that we see all the time.
Which is interesting to me, because I remember questioning some people who were like, remember even back before Trump was elected the first time, and that tape came out where he was talking about grabbing him by the pussy and all this other stuff. I thought, surely that will take the majority of women completely out of his camp, because he's just, I mean, it's obviously him. He didn't even deny that it was him, honestly. So I was like, when there were still women that were trying to kind of support him or say, oh, that's not that big a deal. Like, how can you say that? They would say, oh, well, that's just all men are that way. He's just being real about it. So you can't have it both ways. Like, you can't say all men are like that. But then when you see examples of men being like, they go, oh, where do you find these people? No.
Yeah. And I think so much of that comes down to white women in particular. We don't want to be seen as going against the grain. So if you have, you know, your husband and their friends, and they're all saying, this is ridiculous, and this is not a big deal, that's just locker room talk, he doesn't mean anything by it, that's just how guys are. And then the wife's going, okay. You know, and then she starts saying it too. It's just locker room talk. You know, these women just need to it's not that serious. It's really not that big of a deal. And what? The cognitive dissonance that happens because women are so brainwashed at this point through politics, social media in general, society, how their parents raised them, culture, religion, name it. They're so brainwashed that they don't even hear and understand the gravity of the things that they're saying against their own health, against their own mental health, against their own quality of living.
Because they don't see themselves in that situation. They think it must be different. Like, it would be different if that was my situation. I wouldn't let myself get into that situation.
Yeah. You're just picking the wrong men.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was fun. I really enjoyed that. And Hope the listeners enjoyed as well. Let's see. We do have a challenge for you this week. We do have a challenge. We dare you to be visible. Get visibly defiant. And maybe it could be something like, just share a belief that maybe is going to cause some people to go, well, that's a horrible thing to believe. Or, an opinion, a part of yourself publicly, something that you've been afraid to share, or maybe too much, or make you be seen. And it could be just a conversation that you have that you normally wouldn't have. Maybe it's a wardrobe choice. It's something that you want to wear that you normally don't let yourself wear because somebody may not agree with what you're wearing. Maybe you've been biting your tongue about what's happening politically, and so you post something. And it's okay for you to be you and be settled in who you are. But choose something that you would normally dim down or make softer or more gentle. But instead bring it into the light and go, yeah, you know what? This is what I believe. This is who I am. And I stand for this. And I'm okay if you give me backlash, because it's not going to change what I believe. This is it.
Yep. Now, I have heard somewhere, or seen somewhere is probably the better way to put it, that in addition to, we had pointed out, I think last week we mentioned July 17th is supposed to be the next kind of nationwide protest. But I've also heard recently, and I just can't find anything solid about it right now to verify it, that 4th of July, there will be protests. Now that's a Friday. That'll be next week, next Friday. And as far as I know, that'll be the first, if that becomes a big protest, then that'll be the first weekday protest that's happened. So just kind of check your local listings, so to speak. Go on mobilize.us or 5050.one to see if there are ways that you can protest. Now, obviously, that's going to be a holiday as well, so it's not like it'd be a skip work kind of protest, but see if there's something like that in your area going on July 4th. If not that, July 17th is the next one I know I have seen information about. Just as we continue to make ourselves known and the numbers get bigger and bigger with these protests, we're going to tip
the biggest thing that they're asking for 4th of July, from what I've seen, is asking for no parades, no fireworks. And even if they do have parades and fireworks, stay home. Don't go to them.
Oh, that's even easier.
Just don't show up.
There's literally nothing that you have to do for that.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. Don't do anything. Just don't participate.
How much easier could it be?
Don't participate in this, because it is, and what a perfect day to do it. A day of, we would normally term as a day of freedom, celebrating our freedom. But right now, where is the freedom? We have a tyrannical government, a fascist man in tyranny abounds. So it is, what a great way to protest 4th of July, by just not showing up. So next week, I hope you enjoyed today's show. Next week, since it will be the 4th of July, we're going to continue this discussion, but we're going to make it a lot more political. We're going to share some people and thoughts that we think would be of interest to you. Unleashed individuals, people who are actually fighting for our freedoms, actually fighting for right instead of wrong, actually fighting to defend our Constitution, defend democracy. And to me, and I heard this maybe I'll save it for next week. No, I'm not, because I already said it. Right. So instead of Republicans or conservatives, see, now I can't remember the name. I should have just waited until next week.
Well, that's what people will have to do. Tune in next week to
Tune
find
in
out.
next week, and we'll find. And I'll tell you what the word is, because it was awesome, and now gone.
It's a big tease.
Oh, I know. It's so wrong. What's wrong with me? That's ADHD for you. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead.
No, well, I was going to start it if you weren't going to start it.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So if you enjoyed today's episode, as I said earlier, subscribe, follow, like, share, all those things. If you have a topic, question, or want to be a guest, go to our website at unleashedafpodcast.com. You can go to the WWJDD page there, which is What Would Jenny and Deidre Do? And we would love to hear from you. Yeah. And as we close out, remember, you're not too much. You're not broken. The system is. You're unleashing. Keep going.
Yeah. Rock on and sing our song.
Yes.
I'm done trying to live up to others' expectations. Family, society, class, race, sex, or religions. It's time to break free from the isms that make us feel like we're in prison. I'm ready to be unleashed as fuck. I'm ready